Legacy Evolution Wave 1 in under 60 minutes. Let's go. So here's me back on my fucking bullshit again. New line, new me. Live, laugh. Legacy Evolution. Hello, I'm the shit and I'm awful, so you don't have to be. Okay, let's just get on with this shit. G1 breakdown in over 60 seconds. Let's go. Why the is this not focusing? There we go. My feelings on this car have not changed in the past 18 months. The colours and the sculpt work are all very nice, but the problem just comes from the rest of it. Yeah, like, proportionally, this guy just feels off, but I don't know if he actually is or if I'm just holding him to the Revenge of the Fallen one. But outside of that, he's just a repaint of Wild Rider from here. Spoilers. Also, this hinge piece on the roof is just an incredible arsehole, and I hate it. Like, why in the did it feel the need to break? It just makes no goddamn sense, and now I have to do it like this fucking shit so that it doesn't break. And that attitude just carries across to the robot mode. Perfectly fine at what it does, and that's all it needs to be. Head sculpt's very nice. The white works better than Wild Rider's black, but it's a bit boring. Mind you, at least this guy seemed to roll around after Joe Asbro's grungy yellow phase. Also, weirdly enough, he only comes with one gun where everyone else comes with two. I would say there's some shenanigans afoot, but I think Breakdown's just a and the Stunticons want him to know that. Especially considering that his secondary weapon is a boomerang. What's he gonna do with this? Launch it at an Autobot and hope that it pisses itself laughing to death? Oh, I don't really care. This mold was lame the first time they did it. Let's get spicy with something new. Armada Universe Hot Shot in over 60 seconds. Let's go. I'm gonna tell my kids this was Lightning McQueen. There's no real joke there. It's just this was obviously meant to be the Bumblebee of the 2000s, so you, have a curveball. I think this looks pretty good to the original Armada design. I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head, I'll be honest with you. I never owned the original toy, and this is one of the first times in a long time I've seen this alt mode. It's like the Herbie fully loaded of Audis. Fucking hell. In a classically spiteful Joe Hasbro callback, he's decided to include the mini-com port on the back here. This is the only Legacy figure apart from Prime Bulkhead to have a mini-com port. Like, really, why the fuck? And then you remember there's no helicopter Micromaster, so you can't even bullshit it anyway. I'm spiteful, but it's because Morrison's was sold out of chicken tendies this morning. Fuck you. I don't know, I don't hate this alt mode, but I don't particularly love it. I don't know, it's just a bit weak. It's got hairdresser car kind of vibes, complete with color mismatched roof, which really just ends up giving it an unintended convertible vibe. Do I have anything else to say about this car? It doesn't roll. Outstanding. Let's just get on with it. If I had £1 for every variant of a yellow Kid Appeal character that existed, I could solve the cost of living crisis about 6 times over. Yes, of course, all shot here is a reinterpretation of the old Armada figure, and honestly, well, I'd probably say he's better than Starscream. Sculpted detail and paintwork are very nice, as per usual, till you head south of the border, and then they just pretend all this shin detail and don't fucking exist. I mean, granted, I'm not 100% convinced about what all this detail is supposed to be. I think it's meant to be like a crash test dummy or some shit. We have sculpted details on the inside of his forearms to replicate the actual design. However, it's unpainted. Good damn it, engineers. When are you going to engineer me a cat girl I can keep in the basement? Of course, we've got all the kibble on the back of the legs. Although, I'll be fair, this up here is a very clean profile. Oh, yeah, sure, he's just got one solid piece of car on his back, but it's confined to one area and doesn't get in the way. Of course, it houses the Axel Zuka, which comes over his forehead and becomes a weapon. Like, on paper, I could see the appeal behind this idea, but in execution, I feel compelled to phone the fucking police. There's this gun that exists. I actually fucking despise it. And of course, he comes with cameo bait from the previous reviews. I just now realized he didn't come with that, and I've just fucking filled it in my head that he did. Hey, you know what? You look good holding it. You fucking keep that shit, bro, and if anyone tries to give you any grief over it, you just tell them to fondle your sack, bro. Yes, unfortunately, he is only marginally better than Starscream, and normally I'd be a little bit upset about that, except it only just gets fucking better from here, folks. G1 Needlenose in over 60 seconds. Let's go. Honestly, absolutely no complaints. Like, obviously not the perfect jet mode, but when you've been collecting for as long as I have, you kind of just accept whatever wing surface area you can get. And honestly, it just helps that the underside itself is clean in terms of detailing. Just like your dad at the staff party, you don't see those fists coming. And yeah, the top of the jet just has some really nice paint apps and detailing. And this gives me the perfect segue into this next talk. This video is sponsored by Evo Fusion. What is Evo Fusion, I hear you cry? Well, do you have any figures that happen to have 5mm ports? You do? Well, Evo Fusion is the natural science and evolution of removing something with a 5mm port and attaching it to something fucking else. Like, I wish it was a fucking joke, but Evo Fusion is literally just 5mm ports. Like Hot Shot standing here holding the Star Saber is Evo Fusion. Breakdown holding his spoiler as a frisbee is Evo Fusion. Me and your mum last night, that's repeated instances of Evo Fusion. I think basically it's just Hasbro's way of saying that they just fucking gave up trying to come up with a gimmick. Which I would respect a lot more if they just outright said it instead of trying to advertise, you know, figures holding guns as Evo Fusion. It's like the advertising point of buying a house being that the doors have fucking handles on them. Like, what do you expect? Now, before I get to the unforgiving, brutal, and refusing to die peak that is Deluxe Needlenose, I have to wade through the shit that happens to be his target masters. They have names. I don't have a fucking clue what they are. I mean, this one I haven't seen for about fucking 6 months at this point. And while these guys come with nice paint applications and some good sculpted detail, these guys are technically worse than Peacemaker with Point Blank. And I know you're thinking, Sheep, you're being over dramatic as always. Stop it. I just transformed that. I can't believe I decided to pick the best probable deluxe of this wave to talk about all the bad shit that comes with this. I think this gun looks awful and I hate it, so it can f***ing go. But the other one can stay. So yes, in case you were unsure, Needlenose is the latest involvement of the Target Master idea. And honestly, I would probably say that this man is the Spinister of the Legacy lineup. Like, I'm pretty sure he was in 2 failed polls that didn't result in him getting the win. And he still turned up. Said yous, 1 best in show, and as of recording this in late 2024, has only himself out for 1 repaint. And even that one's fucking excellent. Now stop fucking cameo baiting for the United lineup. But yeah, Needlenose has absolutely no justification for going this hard, but I'm fucking glad he did. His paint apps, while not the most groundbreaking thing in the world, are very, very reliable. About 90% of his articulation is as you expect. But that 10%, I cannot think of any other figures whose legs can go like that without turning the hips. His accessories as Target Masters are not the best as individual figures, but they work fine as weapons. But if the concession for a good base figure was these as the accessories, then I'm wishing Point Blank a very fucking bad Christmas morning. I'm already saying this could be an S tier figure for the lineup. But I'm getting very ahead of myself considering this video is probably, what, 5 minutes in? And we've still got another fucking stupid amount of figures. So let's move on to the last of the deluxes. G1 Scraphook in over 60 seconds. Let's go. Here we are after they decided to take the fucking year off from these weaponizer builds. I know, I didn't notice either. These modular figures are back in junk form. And while this junk form is perfectly serviceable and good at what it is, am I allowed to say the controversial thing? I just don't fucking care. Like, his detailing is really fucking good. All the wheels roll, apart from the fake one, fucking spot on. Yeah, the beige is a bit weak. I kind of wish it was some of the more darker hues that the Junkions came to be identified with. But, you know, I can forgive it because how very often do I really see this figure? Like, come on now. Yeah, I guess that's where we're at. Let's just talk about his robot. Fear not, dear viewer, for the trend of me not really giving a shit continues on. I'm not a miserable person, and I'm not against the fact that these become guns, but it's just one of those moments where I just kind of look at it and think, why? Like, reasonably, what reason does he need to be able to pull out a chunk of his shin to shoot people? Oh my I'm so tired right now, I'd sooner sleep. That is a really nice head sculpt though. Anyway, after one of the transformations of all time, we get Scraphook into his robot mode. Honestly, this head sculpt kind of gives me vibes of an alternate universe post-war Ironhide just living out in a scrap heap somewhere. And that potential is far more interesting than what we actually get with the figure. This guy isn't objectively bad, he's just really boring as the first not Rekgar Junkion mold. Honestly, could have done so much more and just didn't. Mind you, I still like him more than Crash Bar. I don't know, doing this review, I really couldn't be bothered. And I kind of expected to come out the other end of it liking him a lot more. And it's weird because that didn't happen. Like, I can appreciate a lot of what this guy does very reasonably, but ultimately, what these guys do at this point is a tired gimmick that just doesn't seem to have any steam left in it. And while individual Junkions that can pull themselves apart and put themselves back together like they did in the movie is a cool idea, in execution it's just dull, and I feel like these guys being the first reprisal of this idea since the fossilizers doesn't land. Like, as a broad strokes figure, I think Scraphook's probably the best of the Junkions that they did this year, so feel free to let that temper expectations for what's still to come. But in the meantime, let's change pace again. Some obscure Japanese continuity Leo Prime in over 60 seconds, let's already go. I can't really remember which Beast Wars cartoon that Kimpa the fucking line here is from. All I know is that he needs medical attention that I cannot provide for him. I'm not even joking, this face is fucking bad. Why is it like this? Why is it so long? Leo Prime walks into a bar, the bartender says, "Hi mate, why the long face?" And Leo Prime just responds, "Maximal depression." That's really funny, very counterculture, bro. Very cool. Off. Also, he can assume the most basic of walking poses, and that's it. I've seen fucking hieroglyphs that move better than this. Tell you what though, they actually did a pretty good job involving the panels and making sure the body actually looks complete. F*** you, Cheetor and Tigertron, you cunt. Perhaps there's a way to make my sleep paralysis nightmare more dad-shaped. Oh, smashing, thank you very much. You can tell that this Leo Prime's a big fan ahead, because that one is excellent. Yes, now with Leo into his robot mode, I don't know how accurate it is, but it's a very mixed bag. The painted details and sculpt work on the chest and around the main body with the colour breakup are really fucking nice. And also thank you for exercising some fucking restraint with this Matrix. It's always appreciated when it doesn't have to be a separate accessory. But the rest of the kibble, it just feels a little bit too much. Like, surely I am not alone in thinking that. Why do the shoulders need to be this big? Why does he need the front cat legs hanging off his elbows by the shoulders? Like, I know what that means and that sentence makes sense, but holy f***, I never want to say that again. Also, I gotta give this thing props. The articulation's pretty good and the kibble doesn't actually get in the way, but it is still really fucking annoying. I don't know, speaking truthfully, I find this Leo a little bit frustrating. He's not bad by any means, and depending on how accurate he is, it's technically not a bad thing, but this sheer volume of kibble is a fucking dampener on my buzz. It's a no from me and my fucking goofy-toothed fella. Seriously, I always forget those teeth are fucking sticking out like that. IDW Tarn in over 60 seconds, let's go. Oh, thank God, we're finally here. What is probably the most overrated figure in Legacy. I choose my fighting words sarcastically, but please allow me to explain myself. First of all, this alt mode, it's pretty good. The first things first, we all know that visible hands at the back of a tank aren't any good, but as I say, they're at the back of a tank. Odds are the only way you're going to see this is after you've been turned into fucking paste. And apart from that little design oversight, no real complaints. The paint and detail is fucking solid. Treads are non-functional, but painted, always a good compromise. Barrel on the top has some articulation options. Not the most perfect option in the world, but it's alright. Yeah. No real complaints. I'm saving them for this bit. Now, before I completely brandish myself a baby man-child crying over nothing, I would like to put out my opening statements. He fucks. On the most visual of basis, he fucks. Mostly. He carries on the tradition of G-Axis by having posable hands, pre-filled thighs, and hey, he also fulfilled G-Axis's legacy by not yellowing. You know that I'm banged to fucking rights on that. G-Axis didn't yellow. You know I'm technically correct. You have to give me that. Stop trying to fucking hide away. You know I'm right. Either you come out of your mum's house or I'm coming in, but I don't give a fuck. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, Tarn, your booty is beautiful, but it's time to move on. Yes, indeed, with such wonderful posability in that fucking devilishly handsome head sculpt, like holy shit. If that was removable, you'd be on an entirely different level of peak, my friend. Unfortunately, Tarn, you ultimately let yourself down. With what, you ask? Shitty tolerances. Like, seriously, what good is a hulking boy of a figure where I can... Look... That's gravity. Fucking did that. And of course, the fusion cannon, while let's not forget looking like the shit, is also just shit. Like, if you're running away from Tarn and he doesn't chase you and instead threatens to shoot you, I wouldn't worry about it. Because he can't aim it at you. What's the matter, lad? Did you not make your fucking payments on your elbows? Although I must admit, I do think this one does a pretty good job. There are, of course, also the alternative options for display, but I'll wait until I get to his much superior repaints when I decide to talk about them. It's actually quite sad, really, because when Tarn was first leaked and revealed, he was somewhat mythical. So many people have been looking forward to this for so long, and in the end, it was Age in the library with a vibrator. Absolutely badded him up, Inspector. Now, I'm free to go. It's just Hollyoaks are starting soon, and I don't want to be stuck here. I don't know. This whole wave so far has been very underwhelming. We've got one figure left. Please be something good. Prime Skyquake in over 60 seconds. Let's fucking go. Okay. For my diehard fans who remember the previous Legacy reviews, you'll know that I said that Bulkhead and RC were kinda shit in layman's, but that I had some praise for Knockout, and this is like the next evolution of Knockout. I must admit, this jet mode is fantastic. Apologies in advance for my fat thumb being in the way. So let's be honest right up front, it's not the most accurate jet in the world. The Prime one was a lot sleeker, and this one's a lot more like me, let's just say. Of course, I wouldn't say that that hurts the figure necessarily. It's got all the necessary detailing that you expect. The sculpt works good, the paint works really nice. Weapon storage is pretty good, to be honest. Also, undocumented features are always a winner in this house. Except for the undocumented features your PE teacher's been up to. Those are in fact crimes. Yeah, it's a pretty fun alt mode. And does a robot mode come along and ruin it? Surprisingly not, actually. Now, don't get me misunderstood when I say there's some misassembly which is deliberate in the chest with the wings. It doesn't quite make sense, and I don't know why it does it, but it does it. I wasn't in the design office at the time they made this decision. I don't want to fucking know about it. Don't get this mistaken. I'm not saying that this figure is in any way perfect. But, all things considered, he's pretty fucking good. This head sculpt is accurate, but also just really fucking nice looking. Good balance of paint, good balance of angles, all sorts of nice shit going on with it. Good range of motion too while we're at it. The chest isn't the most accurate thing in the world, and it's where people have said that he takes more of an influence from the G1 Skyquake, which was a Predator or some shit like that. I don't really know. But you know what? It, I'm here for it. Also, love his weapons accessory. What can I say? I'm a sucker for miniguns. Phone the police if it bothers you. I will say I'm not as convinced about the mamby-pamby butter knife though. Yeah, sorry Skibbity Quake, what can I say? You look better in America than you do in London. If you think words are cutting, wait until you see what my hand's gonna do. Here comes the airplane. In basics, not the perfect figure, but pretty good. Definitely flawed, but solid and fun, and one that I'm going to talk more about when I get to his repaint, because I'm f***ing tired already. Honestly, as a debut wave, I think the best thing I could say about this is it's better than its predecessor. Outside of a retool repaint that's a holdover from that previous line, there are no direct failures in either execution or design amongst this group. Just a few that are very kind of and then some winners that just so happen to come with their own hamperings, you know, as happens in life. Not bad, Joe Asbro, not f***ing bad. You got me hooked. Now show me what you can really f***ing do.